Hey guys, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman, and it's time for your dose of some fragrance content. It's also time for Paris Corner to get the 6 affordable fragrances worth every penny treatment. So in today's video I'm going to show you 6 old and new fragrances from Paris Corner that are worth every penny. I started this mini series of videos a few weeks ago and I've already covered the brands of Afnan and Fragrance World. I'm going to link those videos in the description of this one, and this week I decided to go with Paris Corner, and basically in the upcoming weeks I'm going to try to cover all major Middle Eastern fragrance brands that I have good experience with and that I have enough fragrances of in my collection so I can include them in today's video. As I said, this week it's time for Paris Corner, and as usual this short list will include a mixture of some old releases and some of their more recent releases. And I'm going to start with a few of their older fragrances that I have in my collection that I do genuinely believe that are worth every penny. The first one that I've included in today's video is called Aadia Intenso. It looks like this, and this fragrance is heavily inspired by Bleu de Chanel, but in this case it's Bleu de Chanel Parfum. Probably, or like up until very recently, what was the darkest, the most sophisticated and dressed up version of the Bleu de Chanel fragrances. Now that we have the newest flanker that I've not yet tried, I think that one takes the spot as being the most dressed up and the most serious one in the line, but up until that point we had Bleu de Chanel Parfum. And Aadia Intenso from Paris Corner actually smells very similar to the original fragrance. So basically you're getting this bluish scent profile that relies on some citruses, that relies on some spices, some woods on the dry down with a bit of ambery sweetness, but basically this is the least fresh one in the whole lineup, and Paris Corner have done a really nice job with Aadia Intenso. In my opinion, this smells very similar to Bleu de Chanel Parfum, emulates the original fragrance very nicely and serves the same purpose as the original one, but for a fraction of the price. Now this is quite an old release. I don't know if it's widely available still, but if you like Bleu de Chanel, if you like the darker versions like Bleu de Chanel EDP and Bleu de Chanel Parfum, and if you're looking for a nice alternative, then basically this is a great option for you. I've been really impressed with this one since the time that I got it about an year ago, and I've talked about it quite a few times already because I think it's that impressive. The next one is cloning one of my most favorite, all-time most favorite men's fragrances. The original one is Dior Homme Intense, and the version of Paris Corner is called Camaro Homme Intense. Now they have another clone of Dior Homme Intense, which I can't really tell you the name of on top of my head, but I think this is the better choice if you're looking for a Dior Homme Intense clone, and if you're looking at the portfolio of Paris Corner, I think Camaro Homme Intense is the one to get. This smells very similar to Dior Homme Intense. Is that lipsticky, powdery based fragrance that has some oud, some musks, a bit of additional sweetness. This one though maybe has a hint of a leather note. Some people will tell you that this sort of clones or replicates the early formulations of Dior Homme Intense, something that I cannot confirm. I can't tell you if that's true or not, but I can acknowledge that this is slightly darker than the current formulations because of the inclusion of that leather note, and that brings just a hint of something like your own parfum into the scent profile as well. So if you like lipsticky, powdery, iris-based scents, I think Camaro Homme Intense is one of your two very best options when it comes to a very cheap clone of Dior Homme Intense. The other great option is probably Caen Classic from the brand of Al Wataniya. I personally prefer a little bit Camaro Homme Intense over Caen Classic because of its slightly darker nature. Overall, this has really nice quality, it has good performance, and costs a fraction of the price of the original. And the last slightly older release from Paris Corner that I've included in today's video was released about a year and a half ago. It's part of the Nordstag Expression line, and this one is called Quatre. There are a total of 4 fragrances in this mini line. One of them is a clone of Parfum de Marly Slayton, one of them is a clone of Bulgarian Tiger, and the other 2 are cloning Louis Vuitton fragrances. Basically, both other 2 are pretty similar to something like Louis Vuitton's Imagination without any of them being an actual straight up clone. This one feels the more sort of an inspired by version or something like that, something with a heavy twist, and this is probably my most favorite fragrance out of that mini line. It has a slightly higher quality than some other stuff from Paris Corner. It's a little bit more expensive at the same time, but I've been really digging Quatre a lot. As I said, this may remind you of something like Louis Vuitton's Imagination, but this is a lot brighter, a lot fresher, a lot more citrusy. Just overall feels like a more laid back, a more youthful version, a more youthful take on that original scent. Especially the opening here is absolutely lovely. There are a few different types of orange note used in this one. There's some gingery, there's a ginger note in this one, some bergamot. Of course, you'll get the usual muskiness on the dry down with a bit of probably ambery sweetness as well. But this is just such a fresh, such a joyful scent that I've been really enjoying a lot. Quality is very nice. The performance is, I would say, more on the average side, something that you would expect with something with this kind of a super fresh scent profile. But overall, if you like the note of orange, for an example, you'll probably end up enjoying this one. Again, this is one of my most favorite fragrances from the brand of Paris Corner. Now let's move on to some more recent releases, some more recent stuff from Paris Corner, fragrances that were released throughout this 2025. The first one that I'm about to show you is called Cosmic Giardino. It looks like this. I regularly talk about this one. This is a fragrance that feels like being heavily inspired from something like Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Beau Paradise Garden. But again, this has not like super heavy twist on it, but definitely has a twist on it. And that twist is a more sweet, a more sweety, a more fruity twist. Now, the original fragrance has never been one of my most favorite ones. You know, it has too much greenness for my personal tastes. The coconut, I'm not a huge fan of the coconut note. I'm not a huge fan of overly green feeling fragrances. And the combination of the coconut and that greenness in the original fragrance has never been like one of my most favorite combos. But what Paris Corner have done with the scent profile is that they've taken it, but they've dialed back that greenness that you find in the original fragrance. The original fragrance has a fig note. And basically what Paris Corner have done, they've taken that fig note, they've amplified it, and they've dialed back a bit the greenness. And the end result is a less green, a more fruity, a sweeter Le Beau Paradise Garden, basically the easiest way to explain this one. And actually I kind of like this take a lot more than the original fragrance. The original fragrance I can't say that I can wear properly. This one, although still not one of my favorite scents, most favorite scents, definitely is a more wearable version for me personally. Again, you'll get good quality and you'll get very decent performance, and from my testing and from my sort of a comparison between the original and this one, I would say that this is as strong as the original fragrance, while at the same time, of course, it's a lot cheaper. The next one that I've included in today's video looks pretty similar to this one, bottle-wise, design-wise, but has a slightly different coloring combination, has this sort of an I don't know, like a gray type of color with golden accents instead of this green one. But this one, although they look pretty similar to each other, this is a totally different fragrance. The inspiration for Mysterium is actually an original Sergio fragrance, which is called Tony Iommi Monkey Special. And this is again another sort of an inspiration or heavy twist. It's not an exact clone. Basically, the original fragrance has this interesting combination of some floral notes, of a rose note, some leather. You get, you know, some spiciness. You get a rum note. With what Paris Corner have done, basically they've taken pretty much completely out that booziness, the rum note from the original fragrance. They've dialed back a little bit the leather note, and they have amplified a little bit more the sort of the floral elements, the rose. They've amplified the sweet elements, you know, the fruitiness in this thing. And basically this is like a lot more wearable, like a designer version of Tony Iommi Monkey Special. That's the easiest way that I can you know, explain how this one smells. Basically this is spicy, this is fruity, there's still some leather in it, but it has quite a bit of florals, a rose note. There are some woods on the dry down, there's a bit of incense, but overall this feels a lot fresher, a lot more airy, a lot less dark version of Tony Iommi Monkey Special. Still though, it will get you somewhat close to the original fragrance, and it will give you an idea how the original one smells. The quality once again is pretty good, and the performance is also quite strong. It's not, now the original is super long lasting, this is nowhere near the performance of the original, but still it's not a bad performing scent at all. And the last Paris Corner fragrance that I've included in today's video is called Prodigy. looks like this, and this one is inspired by another original Zerjo fragrance. In this case, the inspiration for this one is Alexandria 2. But again, this feels more like an inspiration rather than an exact clone, although I find Prodigy to be closer smelling to Alexandria 2 compared to what Mysterium smells, you know, close to Tony Iommi Monkey Special. You know, Alexandria 2 is one of the most famous niche fragrances, one of the most famous Zerjo fragrances, along with Naxos probably. They're two best sellers, but it's quite an expensive scent. I really like the original fragrance. It's one of my most favorite niche fragrances out there. It's an interesting unisex mix of, again, you get some florals, you get an agar oud note, you get some ambery sweetness. It's a very elegant, very sophisticated fragrance that will make you smell like $1,000,000. This is like a more simplified, a more like sweeter version. It lacks the spiciness of the original fragrance, it lacks the agar oud from the original fragrance. It focuses more on those fruity elements, focuses more on the ambery sweetness, and just overall makes it a more wearable, maybe even a more mass appealing version. Again, just like a designer level take on that very nice, very famous scent profile. But make no mistake, because the quality here is actually pretty nice and the performance is also quite strong. Again, Alexandria 2 is an absolute beast, but this is still a very long lasting fragrance. It just costs a fraction of the price, and currently it's again one of my most favorite fragrances from the brand of Paris Corner. So guys, in today's video I showed you a total of 6 fragrances from Paris Corner that are worth every penny. I hope that you found today's video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one for your dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.